Recording has started.
Okay. We all ready? Are they all ready? Hello. Actually, we should do a roll call, shouldn't we? We sort of discuss that. Does everyone hear me, I suppose?
Yep.
Hands
Yeah.
up.
You're a little bit scratchy, but not too bad.
Hands up if you can hear me, please. Good, you can't vote twice. Tracy's not listening.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, thank you, Neville. Welcome, Neville,
Yep.
and one, and Brenton. And Sharon's giving me the finger. That's fine. Okay. Just for everyone's information, we are recording as of now this meeting. So I'll declare the meeting open and read the civic prayer. Someone stand for that. Almighty God, help us to duly and faithfully carry out our numerous duties to the best of our judgment and ability for the advancement of this district and the benefit of all whom we are here to serve. And the Coorong District Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. Thank you. Welcome. Yeah, so we are recording as of now. So I've got, let's just go through everyone and if you can respond so I know your voice thing's working. I'll start with Councillor Arthur in the top corner.
I beg your pardon?
You're here? Just say yes, you're here.
Yes, I'm here. You're a bit scratchy, though, mate. That's all.
Councillor Hill?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Qualman? Councillor Qualman, are you here?
He's muted. Oh.
Working out how to get these apps going. Can you hear me?
Yep, good. Yeah, that worked the treat. That's Councillor Ling in the middle. Councillor Ling, are you here? No, he's on mute. You should better hear me though.
That's better.
Yeah, a bit more volume, please, Vern. Councillor Taylor.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Bland.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Yench.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Roundtree's in the, yeah, it's like a Brady bunch. Councillor Roundtree.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Beautiful. So we have no apologies. The confirmation of the minutes of the 3rd of March of this committee. Someone move that way, please.
I'm happy to move.
Roundtree. Who wants to second it?
Arthur?
Councillor Arthur is the second. Any discussion around those minutes? There being no discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Thanks, that's carried unanimously, Sasha. Just sorry, for everyone's benefit, if you can't see, Sasha's taking the minutes, Judy's in the room, Sean's in the room, Deb and Bridget are here, obviously I'm here. Minute action list, councillors. Hands up gets my attention.
It's a very small list.
Councillor Arthur, you normally have some questions. I'm watching you closely.
And most of them come later in the agenda, and I have had a memo from the CEO just recently answering some of my queries.
All right, you're done. Any other questions from any councillors around the minute action list? Right, I'm taking that. There is none. Questions with notice, there is nil. 6.2, questions without notice. On questions without notice, councillors.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Councillor Arthur.
It's regarding the previous request for the whole of life costing for the 2 Murray-Darling economic development programs. There's an email sent by the CEO after my request and advising that the information will be provided to members by email. When would we expect this?
We haven't done that yet, Councillor. I'm sorry. That's to do with the trail.
Trail
That's,
on the
that's the $500,000 economic Murray-Darling Basin economic development programs.
So, to the youth, Mayor, this has taken me a little while to get to the bottom of it. We're just going back now to examine the actual application for the grant and how it looks. This is one that goes across a couple of councils, and to be honest, Councillor, it's taking me a little while to get to the bottom of what it actually means, who's responsible for what spending. And one of the things we've been having a discussion about, which is not entirely related to your question, is about the various stages of this particular trail. There is very little structure around it. And to be completely frank, I don't think we'll have the information until probably about within the next 3 months. We are just starting to get our head around it.
May I?
Yep.
If I can just add, we have had an audit done on the proposed trail. We received that back 2 weeks ago. We actually had an exec leadership meeting yesterday to discuss that, and that's been given to the Director of Infrastructure to have a look at and advise us from there. So the wheels are turning.
Was that order brought on by us or some other?
By us.
By us.
Yes.
Okay.
The reason for the audit was to help us understand which sections of these trails had issues with them, because that work hadn't been done. It just seemed like the grant was given to build these trails, and there's 7 different sections of it. None of them came with much funding. The Relton one is still progressing, but probably not as fast as we would like. They're actually in lockdown at the moment. So things are happening, but it's fairly piecemeal and haphazard at the moment. So getting you a whole of life costing is probably a difficult ask at this point in time, but we'll certainly do our best.
Do I read somewhere that we've received an extension of the process around Ralcon?
Correct.
So we have. And welcome, David. You're number 10 at the bottom of the screen.
Good afternoon.
Right, thank you. Councillor Arthur, has that finished your questions?
No, there was one other. Hang on, I've got it on my other computer here.
It's questions without notice, you know that?
Yes, it is a question without notice. Yeah, God, I've lost it. A high-tech might like me losing it.
I don't claim to be, I hope you perhaps don't.
Get it, because I can't find it.
Any other councillors while he's looking?
I've got some questions, but they're going to come up later as we go through the agenda.
Right, that's fine. We'll pick them out then.
Just, Mr Mayor, through
Yep.
to you, just through to Bridget, in relation to the whole of life, we have a number of projects starting up now, potentially the Wellington East area, the Salem Bend Jetty area, etc., and even the toilets, I suppose. So if we're going to be looking at whole of life costings, they should be built in, I'm assuming, to the current project processes now.
So through you, that is the ideal way to do it. In my experience, grants are made for the initial infrastructure costs, and then councils bear the operational costs forevermore. What councils generally aren't good at is doing that, but given we don't have a lot of infrastructure going on, I think we have the capacity to work out what the whole of life operational costs are as we enhance our asset register. And David might like to comment on this, but we certainly have the software to do that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Arthur, you get any closer to your second question? Or your
Yes,
last?
I have remembered what it is, and I'm just wondering whether it is part, I suppose it's part and parcel of this. What is happening to the food delivery service that we received a grant for Canalpin? I'm surmising we received the grant. Have we used it? I believe there's a few problems. A few people have been asking me around Canalpin what's going on. So I wonder if we could have an update.
Deb?
For you, Mr Mayor, I'll try and remember this time.
No, that's all right. Look at the screen, or we just remove the bottle in front of our screen.
Sorry.
It was a water bottle.
Look, upon further investigation of the proposed Canalpin Fresh Food project, where there was proposed to be a refrigerator, etc. I'm sure councillors are aware the devil is in the detail with a lot of these projects, and it didn't appear that some considerations were made towards this. So we tried to look at alternatives that would still address the issue down there in relation to fresh food. So we've been in discussions with the community hub for a possible community garden. They were very receptive to that notion, and had Corona not happened, we'd be a long way further along than what we are. We were proposing to go to the town and actually have a town meeting to explain and discuss with them, but unfortunately Corona's happened. Kelly's away this week, but we are in train with the whole process to meet the requirements of the grant.
Just to follow up quick, did we receive funding for it?
Yes.
It was about 28,000, is that right?
No, sorry, about 17.
Judy says about 17,000, which I think is probably right.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my conversations too around Canalpin, people are keen on this concept, and I think the community garden would still fit the brief for that funding, so we don't have to give any of it back. So I know there is some support around Canalpin for that, and people willing to get involved.
So Deb believes that's the case there, Councillor Roundtree, yes. So that seems fine so far. Anyone else around that subject? Okay, is there no further questions without notice? Thank you. We're going to move on. Motions with notice, councillors. Well, there's nil. That solved that problem, isn't it? Motions without notice, please. There's no motions without notice.
Do so.
I'm taking it there is none. I'm moving on. Review of the terms of reference and scheduling of meetings of this committee. Councillors, where is the report, Paul?
Page
Page 8.
Page 6.
Page 6 in mine, but page 8, item 8, is that right? Councillors, you have a report in front of you. Does someone want to move the recommendation?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Question first.
Number 6 for under the recommendation, where it says meetings are to be held at the council's principal office, the Coorong Civic Chambers. Should there be a line in there that does allow for meetings by Zoom or similar?
The government's,
Deb will have a go at that for this.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The meeting procedures that went up last Tuesday allows for this to occur via Zoom.
Yes, I saw that. I just wondered whether it needed to be in this recommendation or not.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
So that last meeting's can supersede everything, basically. So I suppose when we're taken out of that process, we'll reconsider how much you enjoy this process.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Blair, yes.
Short questions. 4.2. Major projects on a regular basis. Given this committees will be meeting quarterly, are we referring to it then being quarterly?
Well, it can be amended that way if you really want to tighten it up, councillor, but sort of is by default.
Well, it's a little open-ended, I think, as regular. Regular can mean once a year, so I guess it's up to councillors to decide. But I would have said, given the number of projects we have on our books at the moment, perhaps
Regular basis changed to quarterly basis. Is that the words?
that would suit. Thank you. And then in 5.4, committee members present may appoint a person to act as chairperson of that meeting. I would suggest that may appoint a councillor.
5.4, the person should be a councillor, is what Councillor Bland's referring to.
A committee member, may I say?
A committee member, or yeah. Committee member would be the same thing. Committee is only councillors. With those, if there's another questions, Councillor Bland, do you want to move?
I have another. Well, I have another question.
Councillor Ling is next. Councillor Roundtree. I've got spotters in the room. Councillor Ling?
Hang on. Yes, my microphone is on. Item 7.7 refers to advising the CEO within 2 days of attending via electronic. What is the method acceptable to the CEO for this advice
Acceptance of,
to attend the meeting via electronic?
Yeah.
through you, Mayor. It would be the acceptance of the electronic diary entry that you get.
Sorry, what was that again? Sorry.
It would be the acceptance of, Ash sends out a diary entry that goes in electronically. The acceptance of that would be considered sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, so if you respond that you wish to do it that way, councillor, that would be considered to be, yeah, sufficient or correct. Sorry, you've done Councillor Ling, I've got Councillor Roundtree.
So with section 2.2, where it talks about the Finance Committee being reviewed at the conclusion of each local government election, are all section 41 committees up for review at the end of each local government election, or only this committee?
No, all of them, my advice in the room and my understanding would be we all would be. As in councillors, section 41 committees, but we'll be interested in all 41s, and so that will reflect on all committees and that which we'll be dealing with a bit later.
I wasn't aware that that was the case. I also wanted to, under the discussion of this report, I think the paragraph just above the bottom, it's quite, I don't know, it's negative in its statement, and I would like to see that the wording around that change a little bit, because the Finance Committee has actually been a very good committee to help identify some of the problems we've had in council. And it is
paragraph a bit up from the bottom. That doesn't really do much for me.
okay. So we're looking at page 7 of 24, where it's got the report, purpose and discussion.
Yeah.
The paragraph that starts off, members are aware that the audit committee is mandated to perform financial auditing functions, and the instigation of a finance committee has resulted in the overlap. I think it's a negative statement. And what I think would be better to say there is that members acknowledge that the audit committee is mandated to perform financial auditing functions, and the finance committee performs a complementary function aimed at reviewing the reliability and integrity of information for inclusion in financial statements and returns. I think it basically, you know, that in that discussion line, and I've seen it come up a few times now, tends to downplay the relevance or the importance of that finance committee, which I think has actually been quite a useful committee for this council. So I would like to see the narrative around that change and become more positive.
Narrative change, we eliminate the paragraph of 4 lines at the bottom of page 6. What do you want?
I would rather change it to say members acknowledge.
The report, councillor. So it's just a report, but you're making everyone aware that we don't need to carry on about it any longer.
Well, I think so, and I just think if we do refer to the Finance Committee in future, we should try and refer to it in the positive light that it should be referred to in, and not this negative narrative that tends to make it look like it's a group that shouldn't be operating. And I think it's, from what I've seen of both how finance and audit operate, it's been a very different committee.
As it should be.
And maybe that's a reflection on audit committee, but it's been a very different committee.
Okay, so I'm just going to take that as your comments because it's in the report, it's not in the motion. You're happy with that? Any other councillors? Before, I'd love someone to move the recommendation, noting Councillor Bland's couple of minor tidy-ups.
So move.
Thank you, Councillor Lang's moved, and Councillor Bland, I'll take you as the seconder if I may.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. Councillor Lang, you want to speak to the motion at all, or you're happy with it?
No, happy to close.
Right. Councillor Bland, well, you don't close it yet, we don't have a debate. Councillor Bland might want to add in something.
No, I'm fine, thank you. Consider it done.
Okay. Any other councillors wish to ask questions or speak for or against the motion? Councillor Roundtree.
I just want to make it clear that, so that report can't have that paragraph changed to be more positive.
Well, it's not as a report unless it's deemed to be ultra vires, really.
Because otherwise it's just going to go into the minutes exactly as written and not resolved.
The report does not go in the minutes, only the motions.
So no one else sees this report.
Well, they would see it already now, but not later. Unless you move to not accept the officer's report, we don't do that anymore. In the good old days, we used to. There you go. It's less. We've taken note of your concerns, councillor.
So I'll type them up and email them through to Bridget and Deb.
Any other councillors wish to for or against? Being none, Councillor Ling is going to close debate.
Close.
Thank you. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Right, that's 8-1 with Councillor Arthur voting against it. Sorry, Councillor Arthur, who didn't get in the list quick enough to speak.
Well, my reason to vote against it is you haven't changed the request. So how can you vote for something when you've sort of agreed to a request and haven't done it?
Because it's in the report, not the recommendation or the motion. That's part of the terms of reference, which is what we're adopting. Technicality. There being no further discussion, I move on to the next item. Item 9, operating expenditure and income report as of 31st of March. The recommendation, councillors. Councillor Bland, you look like you're going to do something.
I'm just waiting my turn, Mr. Mayor, being fair.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if we want to talk about the report, the finance Excel spreadsheet, we want to ask questions about that. Do we need to do that before we adopt the recommendation to receive and note this operating and expenditure and income report?
Very good governance question.
Well, should we at least talk about the spreadsheet first before we do that part?
Looking at Deb.
Yep. Mr. Mayor, generally, the report, the motion is moved and seconded, and then discussion. I note that doesn't happen here.
Yeah. So to discuss it, you should probably receive the report and note it. That doesn't mean you agree with it. Just receive it and note it. You're wriggling a lot, Councillor Roundtree. Have you got a...
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm a cranky kangaroo.
All right, put him down. So it's probably a preference, I think, to someone to at least move that we receive and note it. I think Councillor Bland's got a hand up, and then we can open it up for discussion. I think Councillor Bland.
Yes, also move.
Councillor Bland's moving the recommendation. Someone want to second it, then we'll have a discussion. Councillor Ling is seconding. Thank you, Vern. So the questions you have, Councillor Roundtree, are what?
Oh, there's a few of them. I thought I wondered when we will be going through the actual document itself. Like, will we actually go through it and ask some questions? And if so, I'm happy to start on the first tab of income.
Well, I think we're starting now. You're starting it.
Okay. So there was a spike in line 7, strategy and governance. I'm on the income tab under strategy.
Could you give us the item number, please, Lisa?
010710 tourism income. There's a spike of $4,422. I'm just wondering what caused such a big spike.
Basically,
Judy's going to answer. Thank you.
just sales that we've done through the thing, which is abnormal. There's no in particular, just sales that have done this year that we've got income from.
Okay.
We have that type of income through that tourism.
So what sort of tourism income would that be?
Yeah.
My understanding, it's across the with the tourism across the
Railway.
The information centre at Tail and Ben's what they're indicating, councillors.
Sorry.
There is also items through the Mayor at for sale at Meningie.
Yeah, so we think it, for one of a better word, miscellaneous sales.
Massive jump.
What, finally, or?
Well, it's just I wonder whether something had particularly happened that suddenly, sparked an interest in tourism stuff.
Bridget will answer.
I think we actually just put $500 in the budget. When I see an amount like that, I think that we probably didn't really know what to expect from it. So there's probably no relationship to what we budgeted and what actually happened.
Yeah.
Through the mayor. And usually we only get about 500 anyway annually. So.
Okay. The other question I had then was around the Canalpin Health Centre and Tintinara Health Centre. You've got a big jump. So that's line 56 and 57, 911 and 912. There's a big jump there. Just wondering what that was about at the Canalpin Health Centre.
What sheet are we looking at?
Judy's going to have a go at answering.
So I'm still on the income tab there.
0911.
Yeah, 0911 and 0922. Just one. Yeah, is that an amalgamation of both of those?
Yes, it is.
Yes, the payment's been made to one, not to split.
Judy,
Right.
The floor, please.
Friend.
It's when I was going through this and realised that one of them had the wrong account number. Those two accounts, it's for the Tintinara as well as the Canalpin. It's all been put through to the Canalpin.
Okay.
So fixed up for April.
Yeah.
Could you say that again? I didn't catch that.
It's the money, it's for the rent of the buildings for the health centres at Canalpin and Tintinara. It was put to the one account instead of the two.
Why would you put it to one account when you've got two account numbers?
It's an error that's been resolved.
Okay.
Councillor Roundtree, you still got the floor on questions.
Then on 0966 road grants, there's are we expecting more income in from that? We've got a budget of 1.5 million. We've got 210,000.
David, you answer that. Hello, David.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I was trying to unmute with my spacebar, but it didn't work. Now, Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that income would be from both Roads to Recovery as well as the Coldie Road income.
Yes.
And
You're right so far, David.
And looking at the income received to date, it appears that we haven't. It's not showing all of it there at this stage, at this time.
So the answer is we'll be expecting
very shortly.
We're expecting the rest shortly. Is the answer from here of the income? Councillor Roundtree.
Will it match? Will that income match what the budget is saying we'll receive? Is that the? Are we expecting that we won't get all that money in, or we will get that money in?
To be honest, Councillor, we won't know that yet.
Okay.
But through you, Mr. Mayor, there hasn't been any indication in regards to any reduction in the income. So based on our Roads to Recovery income and the grant that we received from Coldie Road, we'd still be expecting to receive that same amount.
So at this stage, none of us have received any indication from the federal government of any change or reduction in our grant.
That is correct.
We've received the 532,000 for Coldie Road, haven't we?
Mr. Mayor, we have not received it in full yet. We're still waiting for part payment.
So we've paid the $1.2 million ourselves.
We're waiting on that final payment on the final acquittal.
That was done under a heavy vehicle program. That one, different program again.
Again, yes. 532 was by loans, which we took out. We've received 210. We're waiting on the balance.
When does that look like it will come in, Judy?
My understanding from James, we've already put the acquittal in, so it's just a matter of time. I can't give you a date.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. There's no real format in regards to their payment structure. It can be quite irregular. One year you can get it on a certain month, and then the next year you can get it in a completely different time. So,
through you, Mr. Mayor, is any of this funding that we've already expecting to receive at jeopardy with the amount of stimulus packages being issued by the government? Has there been any indication that we might have reductions in other programs?
There's no indication that we won't receive all the funding we've been promised.
Okay.
Not a scary of indications about it. So we're working on the basis that what we've been told we're going to get, we're going to get. Even if some of the processes take longer than we might have hoped. As David just said, some of these processes take different time frames, and that particular Coorong Road project was in a different pot of money again to most local government ones.
That's where you made the same conversation will be had around the drought money when we get to that report as well. Stage 1 has had no formal sign-off yet, which means we've received no money, but there's been an indication from the Commonwealth to start some of the projects. The only one that they didn't give the indication for was Vulcan. So we've had no indication that any of the money is at jeopardy at all, but none of it is flowing yet.
Okay.
Councillor Roundtree, how you go with your list?
That's all for income. I have other questions on the other tabs, so I'll wait till we get to the other tabs, or if you're happy for me to lead off, I can do that too.
Perhaps I'll go to the rest of the councillors. Any other questions around income first?
Yes, I've got some, and I keep harping about this. I cannot believe we've got a system here that says that the general rates, we've received them all for the year. So what happens to the $2 million or $1.6 million that we receive on the 11th of June for the next quarterly issue of rates? Where's that going? To an impressed account, in the Mayor's account, the CEO's account, or what? We've got it down here as an income we've received when we haven't received it.
I don't know who's going to answer
You
that.
know, what sort of, are we a cash system, an accrued accounting system, or what sort of a system do we run?
Try and describe whether we've got a cash system or accrual. That's fair enough.
Okay, through the Mayor, it is an accrual system, basically saying that we've actually raised all the funds that we were going to plan via our rates module. The debt side of it, as of cash, we have not received it all. This is on an accrual type basis. Everything that we've billed, whatever is put to the accounts, does not necessarily mean we received the cash to date.
So it's an accrual system.
Yes. And we won't
So, can I just ask, just put one scenario? Say this quarterly rate notice that goes out, because of the coronavirus, no one can pay their rates. We're going to have a balance sheet that looks ridiculous.
Not as good as it could, councillor, but you know, later in the agenda you'll see the rate debt snapshot, which shows how much is outstanding in the long term, excluding the fourth quarter of this year we're in now.
I've got a fairly big question about that too.
Yeah, right, but one thing at a time. So I take on board what you're saying, but it's an accrual system. So.
You know, I just cannot believe that we put it in as an income. You know, like it's like you've going to sell in May 14 truckloads of hay. You know,
that's what accrual is. Your next question, Councillor Arthur, is though.
Yeah, there is one other. There's an amount in here of 0945 water supply schemes. Estimated income 17 grand, only $6,000. Could you explain why that is? Is it because that we've changed the system and the people aren't using the water now?
Through there, it's the accrual. We haven't raised the rates for the usage of that water. I think they went out this month. Invoices for water. Yeah, so they went out. They hit the system this month in April. So we will see more income coming. I don't know whether it's going to. But we only twice a year.
Are
they raised with the quarterly rates?
No, they're not, councillors. So it appears that they are raised as a separate charge. I'm looking at the two that do it.
User charge?
So they use a charge that's separate to our rating system. So the second half yearly, because they're done in half yearly blocks in this council, tell me that I'm wrong,
Yep.
Judy.
Yes, we are.
The accounts have been just sent. So that would,
they'll hit this.
over the summer period, you think might catch up to that income amount.
That's right.
Yep. So that's news that we don't, doesn't go with our rates. It goes as a separate.
The connection fee goes with the rates.
All right.
The user
fee does.
separately.
Even better.
And this is to the end of March.
March 2020. So it's the second quarter. The summer quarter's usage has gone out the last few days. One side, keep going, Tank.
I've only got two in this, and they're very similar. 0950 sanitary and garbage disposal fees, budgeted 23.5, expended 20. 0952 other sanitary and garbage income, 59,000, budgeted, received 54. Can you tell me why we've got two sanitary and garbage disposal? One's a fee and one's an income. I thought a fee would be an income.
Very good question.
Can I have to take that on notice? I'm sorry.
Judy suggests take on notice. David, I'm looking at you. You've got no answer either.
I can't remember which one's which.
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd have to have a look at authority. I'm not sure as to what the two different ones are.
So that's take it on notice, Councillor Arthur.
Could we take that? Yes, please.
Yep. Fee versus.
That's all in the income cert.
It looks like they should be amalgamated together and it should just be the one item.
Maybe, but there may be a very good reason why it's not. Councillor Arthur, you got one more question?
No, I'm right.
You're right. Anyone else on the income side of the budget, please? There being no more, I'm going to ask any around the expenditure side.
My first question through you, Mr. Mayor, was relating to 0004 elected members other expenditure. On on one tab, it's got that we have overspent by $8,600. So questioning why that has increased. But on the other tab where it talks about expenditure with no employees, costs added in, we're actually less than we budgeted to spend. So there's about $13,000 there in staff time. Just wondering if we could have an explanation to that.
Through the Mayor. Basically, as previously been told to the councillors, not all salaries have been costed to accounts. This is the overtime that staff have used to cost when you had your meetings at night. So the front counter staff, Ash's time, and any of the other staff that are around those meetings, that's where that's from. That will now technically cease because you moved your council meetings to 2 o'clock. So
we paid 13,000 in overtime having the meetings.
Yep.
Right.
There may be something else in there, but that is the major override.
Mr. Mayor, can I just make the point? That is not an elected member's expense. That's an operational expense of salaries. Now, like this is the trouble. You don't know. Everything's hickledy-pickledy. Elected members' expense should be elected members' expense. There used to be a travelling, account for elected members. That's all. They should be specific and made out properly.
I would agree with that. I think that having those overtime costs allocated against elected members' other expenditure is it's misleading.
Okay, Councillor Yench.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I don't think it is misleading because the councillors, i.e. the council, have chosen when to hold the meetings. It is specifically held based upon a councillor's decision. So therefore, it really does slate back to us. It's our convenience that the meetings have been held at 6 o'clock or later. Previously, in previous councils, they were held earlier in the day so that we did not have that expense. We were aware of that expense in the past, which is why it didn't occur.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
It's got nothing to do with the council's expenses. It's got to do with the with how it's recorded against the staffing, surely. It's not an elected member's expense.
I think the best thing to do with this subject is, Bridget, we have a bit of a look at the parameters around how this is recorded and dealt with and why. And where in the Act there is any limitations or extensions. Councillor, where was I? Councillor Roundtree.
Yep, another question on 0140 strategy and governance management. We had nothing in the budget but spent 79,000. Just wondering if there's any information more on that one.
Bridget.
Because it shows up in both tabs and with the employers and without employees, so it can't be an employee cost.
That's the legal fees that were expended last year in terms of the activity around the previous CEO, and probably there's also some in there to do with the credit card issues.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Roundtree, you finished your questions on expenditure?
I'll let someone else have a turn for a while. I've got a couple of others.
The next hand I can see is Councillor Taylor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the strategy and governance management, why can't we just record it as legal fees then if it's against, if it is the legal fees? Just to give it a more precise
You'd like a notation?
indication of what the money's being spent on.
You'd like a notation on that to tidy that up?
Yes, and sorry.
No, you're fine.
The sustainable development expenditure as well as CFI Biodiversity Fund, $76,000 against that, not budgeted for.
Need a number?
0175.
0175.
0175.
Bridget?
Mm.
I'll have to take that notice, Judy.
Through the Mayor. So, because I've allocated 90% of the grants of the that people have into one account, it's underneath where it's drilling from. It's been allocated individually for each of those grants. So I can't tell you exactly how much that particular fund was particular for grant. I can bring that to you later. It's all to do with that.
It's a LAP grant funding amalgamation of grants, I think, with the politest way, Judy, and you can show us more information, so we might just take that one on notice as well, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, is that the same then for bioremediation? Is that part of LAP?
Yes.
The answer
Yes.
is yes.
Mr. Mayor, that's about a 3-year-old fund. I think that was originally about $3 million that went over 5 years, and why we still got it in there, it's just bobbed its head up before. It's a bit like the polytunnels, which we haven't had for 5 years. We still keep paying money for that. We never seem to work out why.
Sorry. Sometimes these grants do have a long tail.
Long tail in grants and Judy.
Yeah, basically, it's just reusing the numbers. The council keep it in the same location as previously.
So we are reusing, recycling the numbers, which is probably good and bad.
Yeah.
They're noting that it needs to be dealt with. Next question, either Councillor Taylor, Councillor Roundtree's next, if no one else.
I'm happy to go. So I've got a question then around the public toilets. There's 4 public toilets, and we seem to have spent about $42,000 on those, and that's probably 16,000 over budget. I'm just wondering what was the main issues on the Meningie, Tailem, Canalpin and Tinty toilets for them to be so far over? Is that just not the right budget number, or something happened?
So they are listed as four separate budget lines.
Yeah. So 0250 and 50, 51, 52 and 53.
Judy.
Through the Mayor. Basically, again, as per previous, we have not budgeted field staff against accounts. They're just lumped in one. So therefore, some of this overdue is to do with the actual staff allocation to the particular buildings and so forth. Because they're not
So
going to be...
through you, Judy, the tab I'm looking at says expenditure, no employee costs. So that's what you're saying, it hasn't had staff time included, but it's already 16,000 over without the allocation of staff.
well, I'll have to go back and check then.
Go check that.
My apologies. But...
So
I would imagine that through you, Mayor, that we to date hadn't allocated staff across it. So I think that
the number with staff is 54,000 over.
We'll check that. That doesn't look right to me, Councillor.
Okay.
Councillor
So
Taylor.
Yep, sorry.
Councillor Taylor, I'm watching you.
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just like to remind everyone that David still did a stunning job in trying to get this budget sorted out under very unusual circumstances. But can we expect it to be tightened up for ongoing in future? Because the numbers, the expected, anticipated, and actuals are very different on a lot of lines.
Through you, Mayor. We do have, and Councillor Taylor, I agree. We have a system, as you know, that's probably not fit for purpose anymore. And so some of this is manual spreadsheets, and the risk in manual spreadsheets is much higher than if you have a system that works perfectly well. We have a presentation from 2 suppliers at the end of next week, I think, who are coming to talk to us. One is about the upgrade of our current system, and I think I've said to you that that's quite a significant amount of money and work, and one is from a new supplier that is used by about 70% of councils across the state. And once we have the presentation from those 2 suppliers, we have about 250,000, I think, in the budget for next year. To do that, we will come to you with a recommendation of which proposal would best suit the purposes of this organisation.
Awesome, thank you.
The executive will come to us with a recommendation. You've got that amount in the forthcoming budget. It is probably very obvious to nearly all of us that the system is not working as well as we need it to. So we'll leave that for your consideration then, and then we might be able to tidy up these questions a lot easier now. Councillor Taylor, you still have the floor.
All good, thank you.
I'm looking at all the other councillors. Is anyone else? We're on the expenditure side, and Councillor Arthur has got his hand up just about through the camera.
0194.
0194.
The LAP Implementation Council contribution, 186,000. Could we have a rundown on that? Because it doesn't, council do not put $186,000 into the LAP scheme. And of that $186,000 budget, 175,000 has been spent. So I'd like a detailed rundown of what that expenditure entitles. And
0195, Councillor, wasn't it?
0196, 0194.
Four.
Yes.
Are we able to answer that right now or not?
If you look at no employment.
No, no, the one before.
I can see you, Councillor Bland. Just hang on, please. We're going to have to take that one on notice. It seems to.
And it just, you know, one other, when these reports are given to us, when you've got a report there that says 0330, Parks and Gardens, budgeted 136,200, 3/4 of the way through the year, you spend $223,084 with no explanation. You know, you're, what are we, 90,000, which is 45, nearly 50% over budget, and there's no explanation for it. You know, like these printouts are all well and good, but surely you've got something there. Could we have an explanation of why that is overspent?
So, councillors, through you, first of all, I think we can do these reports differently. I think giving you a line by line is probably not the best way to give you information to start with. And also, I think we should put more notes on these, as Councillor Arthur suggests. Some notes on some of these items would help your understanding a lot more. And we can do both of those things. Unfortunately, I don't think that will happen until we do have a new system in place, because we require the migration of the data that we have on our spreadsheets into that system. But we can, for the next finance meeting, make sure that there are notes attached to the ones where there seems to be an obvious discrepancy between what the budgeted amount was and what the actual expenditure was.
And my final one, Mr. Mayor, is 01354, CWMS General. We're at $79,416 there, as budgeted for no expenditure. We've got the expenditure items for the other 4 CWMS schemes, but this is a general. What does that stand for, and what's the $79,000 for?
So you, Mayor, a question like that, down to that detail, I can't answer unless you send a question like that beforehand, Councillor Arthur, so we could tell you the answer if we knew that what that question was coming up. But being able to say what the 79,000 was cut from a cold start is probably nigh impossible.
We're going to take that on notice, Councillor. And Councillor Bland, your question is?
My question leads a little bit further than just these reports, in that, given that we've had a significant number of questions around, for example, the LAP program, whether or not at each meeting would have a little bit more in depth, and perhaps at the next meeting we could have a full rundown on the LAP, given that the LAP have we receive money for Tatiara to provide services, and that becomes quite transparent then as to where some of this money is either received or expended. If we could perhaps agenda something each meeting around some of these very specific issues.
I think what we might do, look at the CEO, is that there's two particular areas of our budget that always give a lot of questions, and they are LAP and CWMS, which are partially external. I'm going to have a discussion with Bridget after this meeting about how we may deal with them better.
So through you, Mayor. With the LAP one, your question couldn't be more perfect, Councillor Bland. We have been speaking with Tracy about giving a presentation, first of all, to the executive internally to help us understand, because we have spreadsheets with some very big numbers on it in terms of grants and what happens with them. So we're in the process now of understanding what that might mean and what it looks like. And once we have that information, we were intending to come to council with a briefing on that. So that timing is perfect.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, could we also include the FTEs? Because my understanding, I may be wrong at this point in time, but that people like Sam and that have multiple hats, and therefore people need staff. We need to understand that not everybody who works for LAP is necessarily full-time for LAP.
Certainly.
Thank you.
And they just got another $50,000 grant the other day, I think, too.
There you go. Happy days. Councillor Roundtree, and we're getting to the end of this, I hope.
It's 0420. There's an amount of 1 million spent, but we only budgeted for 382. Is that just and that's for unsealed road maintenance, rural, and there's also a discrepancy on sealed roads maintenance, urban, with the different higher amount as well. Is there a reason for those anomalies?
Sorry, Councillor, which numbers were they?
So we're looking on the expenditure, including employees tab, and it's 0420 and 0435, unsealed road maintenance, rural and urban. The budgeted amount seems quite small. Is that just, I suppose what I'm getting at is that we've got a heading up above roads, general, other. Those subcategories, are they under that particular road, general, other, or are they different?
That would be an allocation to, no, you're right in your assumptions that that top line is probably the one that is the overriding header for the amounts, and then under that sits the different categories. David?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just having a look at authority. Once again, that is the allocation of wages and salaries against the number, whereas the budget doesn't reflect the wages and salaries.
Right.
Roundtree, does that satisfy you that there's parallel systems in operation?
Yeah. I think sometimes even in presenting this information, it could be useful to step in the ones that are subcategories of main categories, or somehow identify the main categories, right? That way you can, so it's really obvious then if something's just been allocated wrong on the sheet. Yeah, I thought that might have been the case, but I just wanted to raise it.
Okay. Any more, Councillor Roundtree?
No, thanks.
Well, I'm looking at all the rest of the happy faces. Given this is a recording.
I'm happy to move to accept the report.
No, you've been outdone, Councillor Bland and Ling, and the mover and seconder.
Ah, that seemed ages ago.
Well, we're trying to get it right. Anyone else wish to say anything?
Yes, just sorry, Mr. Mayor. Just the next item, we've got the drought funding expenditure of 127,000. The cemetery and gallery restoration.
Is that the agenda item or not?
Yeah, next one. After expenditure,
next tab.
Hit your next tab.
Yep.
It's drought funded projects.
Mm.
And this matter of $127,000 there, and those figures, you know, like, where do they come from? And what about the rest of them?
Through the Mayor, those ones that have been on those in that spreadsheet are actually operational type grant funded projects, which is your cemeteries and whatnot. The other $800 and whatever $1,000 is in capital work, so they've had to split them because of the statements. Well, operational as opposed to capital works. So you'll only see 127 in the spreadsheet. The next report has the rest of the money.
I realise that, but like surely if it's drought funding and you've got $1 million to spend, you want to keep a tab on your $1 million and put them all together. Then you split them up into your income or your capital or operation.
Councillors, as you're aware, they had to be, this particular grant process, there's 2 lots of $1 million each, had to be put through council's books, not any other method.
So the 127 is operational.
So that's an operational part of the first million, Councillor.
Mm-hmm.
That would be probably the fee, if I'm guessing, Judy, for the manager of that plus the route. Yeah.
Yeah, so the cemeteries and the route.
Cemeteries, which are operational in consideration.
Yeah.
I would pull, through you, Mayor, full report that's collated will go through to the general meeting next week.
On the drought?
Yes,
on the drought ones. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any further questions before I put the motion? It's Councillor Bland, you'll get to close debate.
Consider closed.
Thank you. I'm going to put the recommendation, it is as it reads. Best of my knowledge, all those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Number 10, please. Capital Works Program update as of the 31st of March. There's a recommendation, councillors. Councillor Leonard, drop a chair. The recommendation, please. Councillors Taylor moves. Is there a seconder? Councillor Routtree. Any discussion, please?
Yeah, I just had one point.
Councillor Arthur.
Yeah, there's just one capital amount in there. I couldn't find it in the budget process. 90,000 for the playground. Looks like additional new playground or something at Taylor Bend Train Park. Is that right? We've spent 26, which is the place, and then there's 90,000. It says works associated with Taylor Bend Train Park has been completed. Remaining playground works has been scoped, but I couldn't find that in the budget anywhere.
Judy's going to have a go at answering it.
Trying to through the mix. There is a component within the capital works that says playground under carryovers. There's to do with the playground and the train itself, which was commenced prior to the 30th of June, which was now completed in this financial year. I can't remember, but it is. David?
Through you, Mayor. David, have you got the more details about the playgrounds?
Sorry?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just having a look at our annual business plan, and it does clearly indicate that there was a carryover amount of $90,000 for the playgrounds, including the works at the Taylor Bend Train Park. So that was identified as a carryover project of $90,000.
So what was the carryover?
So the carryover component was the fencing around the playground. Now that was all that work that we did in regards to the mitigation issue in regards to the WHS aspect of it. And the other works were, I'm not sure of the breakup of the figure, but the other works were for the replacement of a couple of items. Yeah, I'm not sure where they.
I'm trying to deduce whether 90,000 was the starting figure. That's what I'm trying to deduce, and if that money's still in the budget to be spent.
Yes. My understanding there is that 90,000 was in the budget. It may have been from the year before, I'm not sure, but it's definitely in the budget now. 26,000 of that's been expended on the playgrounds, the Taylor Bend Train Park. The rest of it is already earmarked. I asked this question to Dave the other day that the playgrounds, they were either due for an upgrade, and we can send you the list of the playgrounds, but that money will be expended as we intended this financial year.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Hang on.
If I'm wrong, David, but didn't the upgrade of the train cost $46,000?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, but some of the money was spent as part of the 18-19 financial year. So the remaining money, which is what you can see in the report as being the 26,319, that is the money that we had to spend this year to complete the works at the Tail and Bend Train Park. So the remaining money is to be spent elsewhere as part of our playground upgrade renewal program.
Councillors will be aware we received some income from the mutual liability scheme around that process.
Which is the money that was spent predominantly last year. The previous year. Councillor Arthur,
So-
Councillor Roundtree, please.
So just to confirm that $90,000 in the budget and the balance that we've got left to spend, is that specifically for the Tail and Bend Train Park, or is that playgrounds in other parts of our region?
We're awaiting the report on that. I don't know if we can get a heads up yet.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's not to be spent at Tail and Bend. I'm not sure of the identified equipment that needs to be replaced. I think some of it initially was at Peak, but I know then Meningie was coming up next on the list. It's the replacement of equipment in priority order based on an audit that we had done about 3 years ago.
And the
Through you, Mr. Mayor. David,
playground at Peak had to be demolished or removed to make way for the extended netball courts. Councillor Roundtree?
I was going to say the same thing. And also, David, ages ago, we had raised with the Peak and District Sporting Club about that playground. So I think they are still considering their options. So hopefully that money is still there for them to replace that playground with those funds, rather than having to apply for new money.
David, you got any comment?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, when the report was done or the assessment was done 3 years ago, Peak being identified then, it wasn't considered that they were going to get some grant funding. So given that they've got the other works happening and they're still waiting on whether or not they're going to be receiving the other grant that they'd applied for, yeah, we're waiting for that before we spend any money on it. So
this is a good example of where we may in future reports put a dot point that says the money that's been earmarked for playgrounds, and it's a very good one in terms of example, that playgrounds will be replaced or upgraded depending on that report that was done 3 years ago. So we can circulate that report so that you know what the priority of needs are, and as we have money available we will go through, or as the needs of the park become evident, we will be repairing them. So the 90,000 generally is earmarked against something in terms of a hierarchy of needs, similar to roads.
Councillors will be aware that the word carryover is not generally used in local government, and we probably need to stop using it. If it remains unexpended in a year, we need to re-establish it in the following year.
Except where grants concerned.
Except where a grant's concerned. Thank you, Judy.
Otherwise,
We need to be careful with our language. In other words, if the money's not expended, it'll go to the surplus or the deficit of that year it's in, which brings us to making sure our budget's established on time so that the capital works can be done by the 30th of June, if possible. I'm looking for any more questions in relation to this agenda item. Capital Works projects. Item 10, councillors, there is none. Councillor Taylor, are you happy to close debate?
Close debate.
Thank you. Thank you. I put the motion. It is the recommendation as it reads. All in favour? All against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Sergeant. Item 11. I'm in 11. The rate debt recovery snapshot at the 14th of April. The recommendation, can someone move that, please? Councillor Roundtree moves. Thank you. Councillor Hill seconds. Someone want to speak to this report just briefly? Sasha, are you going to speak to this report?
Yes.
11.
Yep. So basically, we just felt that with everything that was going on relating to the COVID crisis and potentially how that might impact on the payment of rates, just to provide you with a bit of a snapshot where rates are at in terms of percentage of debt.
Through you, Mayor. It's also an opportunity because at the next council meeting, we're bringing to you a change in the policy for the hardship, just as Sasha said. The COVID-19, there's been lots of discussion at the local government level, not just in South Australia, but across Australia, about how people who are impacted by COVID, whether it's through the shutting of their business or unemployment, rates may become an issue for some of them. So we thought it was important that you had a snapshot and an understanding of where we are at this council in terms of outstanding rates and what the position might be. It also talks to the next agenda item, which is around what our current debt is, because there will probably be some expectation that we as local government are also part of the recovery and the stimulus. Generally, we're very small players in terms of that. The states and the Commonwealth are the ones with a lot of money, but where local government can play their part. So I thought it would be important that you also understood what our debt situation is at this minute.
Councillor Roundtree. Can you unmute yourself, please? Start again.
Oh gosh, I hate that big button. I thought the information as it was presented was really good, but I think that for us as a council, we might see some difficulty in paying the fourth quarter rates, those who haven't already paid it. So that's 17% of income that could be affected. But I think we're actually going to see the biggest problem for council in people's ability to pay next financial year. I think right now people are getting through with what government stimulus packages they are. No one knows if their business is going to survive or if their job's going to return. And I think we're going to see, and we should start getting prepared for possibly an even bigger problem next financial year. This financial will be fine. I think next financial year is our problem.
So certainly, councillors, and I've asked, suppose this and the next item be on the agenda for your information and consideration of next week's meeting, where you get to consider whether you wish to relax, might be one word, the hardship policy a bit to make it easier to grant people whatever you may decide next week as a hardship policy, as a deferral of rates. I think the most interesting or whatever part of this is the 5% in blue on our graph, which is effectively people already behind in our rates, as it was even in this year, Sasha, or is that at least a year behind?
Well, if you consider the overdue rates that were brought forward from the previous year, we're no better off, we're no worse off currently.
So if you say it was 500,000 out of an income of 10 million, well, that's 5%, isn't it? We're not at school. That's probably not a total disaster in business senses. Councillor Taylor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, what's the deadline for the final quarter to be paid?
The 11th of June.
Do we know if those experiencing hardship include businesses, or mostly businesses, or mostly ordinary residents, or do we have any data on that?
Well, all I can report at this point in time is that I've had, I'm just thinking, 5 requests from ratepayers, just sort of questioning whether or not they can defer payments on their rates. I had one query from a local community group wanting to postpone the payment of their the rent. They're currently renting a council building. So really, you know, that's not a lot when you consider what's currently going on, you know, in society. So next week at the council meeting, you guys will be asked to consider a lot of things in terms of, you know, around the hardship provisions that we can apply. Certainly we've taken, you know, we've had to seriously consider, you know, going forward the long-term effects of, you know, the different options that we can provide. And so basically where we're at this point in time is that we're going to encourage people to enter into payment arrangements as a part of the application for financial hardship, and payment arrangements that are flexible and that are specific to individual circumstances as the best way forward, as opposed to postponing or even remitting rates as a part of that hardship application.
Thank you.
Councillor Arthur, what have you done to me, Sean? You've shifted them round.
Sorry. Just the overdue and arrears rates notice, as presented in this report, is $549,579. But as reported in the minute, in the info, in the March, the deficit was only $191,457.69. Have we done a fair bit of updating on our actually arrears, or has there been a rather large increase over recent times?
Judy's going to answer this one.
Through the Mayor. What we report normally is what's actually already at debt collection, and that's what the 191 was at that previous meeting, is what's been done. These ones have not gone to the debt recovery at this point. They're still being consulted on a one-to-one basis or not paid the third quarter. But they probably will end up on debt recovery processes further down the track.
No.
Is that the way we've always reported it? Because, you know, like last year at the end of the financial year, it was about $229,000 outstanding. So it's only when you get to virtually over the 3 years of Section 184 or something that you put it in as a really bad debt.
That's when it becomes a bad debt. Yes.
That's right. So I think that'll be consistent, Councillor Arthur. Sorry, Councillor Hill and then Councillor Bland. Rosie.
I agree with Councillor Roundtree that there's a lot of small business grants being thrown around at the moment. There's the JobKeeper. I've got an employee who's going to get double her normal income. And also the job seekers. So there's a lot of money being thrown around right at the minute, and I wouldn't like to see that the COVID-19 is just used an excuse to not pay your rates. It's probably going to be self-funded retirees and a few people around the periphery that are going to probably have the most hardship at the moment, but that funding will be cut at some stage. They'll run out, and I agree, it's probably going to be next financial year that people are going to struggle the most.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bland.
I would agree with that as well.
Stop. Sasha wants to say something.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, Councillor Hill, that that's why, you know, when people apply, and each application will be based on its merits. So if people are applying for financial hardship, at that point in time, you know, we're certainly going to be encouraging people to be making those regular payments, and I'll be making them very well aware of the long-term impacts if they're, you know, they're sort of determined to apply for a postponement instead. Because at the end of the day, whether they pay their rates now or whether they pay them, you know, 6 months down the track, 12 months down the track, you know, it's still going to be a liability against their property. They're still going to be responsible to have to pay that. So that's why, you know, we've made some changes to the hardship policy. We've made some changes to the application form to make it very clear to ratepayers when they're applying for financial hardship that the best way forward is them to be paying something as opposed to nothing.
Sorry, thanks, Sasha. Sharon, Councillor Bland, sorry I cut you off. Sharon?
No, that's fine, Mr Mayor, I agree. And Sasha has probably answered part of what I wanted to make comment about. But also there is a whole range of processes through Centrelink around the hardship. Are we actually going to be looking at that strongly as well? Because many people who have been able to apply for that in the past, we don't always find that they get to a point where they can actually ever break even. So their payments are quite minimal and they're always, you know, basically chasing their tail, which is very hard at the end of the day in relation to their properties. My other comment will be around tourism, and many of the tourism operators, particularly those who are running B&B as their main income, although they can, or caravan parks, etc., while they can actually apply for some funding and some grants, it won't cover them for long. And I think they are probably significantly affected in our area, given that we have hung our hat on tourism potential in this area now for the last few years.
As a comment, Councillor, or a question? I'm trying to...
The first question was really around the Centrelink. The second one was answering the question previously about what areas besides small business, but particularly the small tourism business. I've had a number of people speak in this area.
I don't know, the first one, settling, is that sort of a question, Sasha, that you don't take that into consideration because you can't, or?
If someone were to apply for financial hardship, Councillor Bland, and if they, and I guess at that point in time, I would be making a bit of a judgment on their personal circumstance. We're absolutely promoting ratepayers to utilise the services of a financial counsellor. The beauty of people going to see a financial counsellor is that that it's their role to make sure that that ratepayer is receiving every, government entitlement. And so whilst we've changed the application process so that some people can self-apply, because I don't think that under the circumstances that it would be wise to be referring everyone to financial counsellor, because that's what our previous policy told us to do. I think, realistically, poor financial counsellor is going to be inundated. So we did want to make the process easy so that people could self-apply. But at the same time, I'm going to be very quick to refer people to a financial counselling service, if I feel that, that they're going to be able to benefit. And this is going to be more for people who are not prepared to enter into a payment arrangement.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing too, I want to draw a distinction between the process for, say, a ratepayer who owns a residential property. This is the process that I've been talking about. But for a commercial property, the process for them is slightly different. They would really need to apply for a discretionary rebate. So that whole fine, look, they could still probably use that application form, but I think primarily that hardship application form, where you're talking about the financial counsellors, really relates to residential property owners. It has been advised to counsel, from legal and looking at what other councils are doing, is that for commercial properties, probably the best way forward for them would be to apply for a discretionary rebate. And all of this information will be presented to you at the council meeting next week.
Thank you, Sasha. I'm actually really pleased we've had this discussion now to help with next week's discussion. What I'm aware of is next week in a formal meeting, there's going to be more complications than I thought. Now I've thought through the issues, but at least now we're in a simple form. Any further questions? There being none. Councillor Bland, I think you moved it. No, Roundtree, sorry. Lisa, closing debate.
Closed debate.
Thank you. I'm putting the motion, the recommendation is the motion as it is. All those in favour? Those against? Sorry, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item is council's debts. Council's current debt. Councillor Bland, your hand up for this next item.
No.
Oh, you just vote early and vote long. Right. Item 12, please. Presentation of council's current debt. Bridget, you want to say anything, or just it's there as a where we're at today process, so we understand where we're coming from?
Yeah, in a sense, it was really to complement the rates discussion and also the expectations of local government about where we might be able to help. And I suppose I was thinking it was important that you understood what our current debt situation is before we had a discussion about does council need to have any more debt? Should we have debt for what particular purpose? Is it to stimulate the economy through some infrastructure building? I must admit, I don't think debt for operational purposes is generally a good idea, but if it's to do with building things, and I know Councillor Arthur about the whole of life costs is always an issue, but sometimes along the way, the stimulation of the economy probably takes precedence. Now, in an organisation or in a district this size, our ability to impact and influence the economy is probably not as great as if you're in a urban council setting, but I think we've got a part to play. So that part may or may not centre around our debt, so it was important that you understood what our current situation is. And the top part of the table shows the debts that still have quite a way to go, but the CAD facilities are the ones, the ones in the middle, the debentures are basically sitting there that we can utilise, and there's about 3.5 million of those. that are just sitting there. One's due to expire towards the end of middle of this year, but it's not a difficult process to reapply, to have that just sitting there in case we need it. So
so they are not drawn.
they're not drawn at all. So 3.8 million we've got. When we're thinking about what we may need to do and whether it's about the a more generous approach to the rates, which means that we'll probably have more debt because we have less revenue, and we probably will have the same amount, if not more expenditure. How do we manage that? So those facilities are there to help us through at this particular point in time. As you can see, the interest rates are very, very low. And one of the LGA people the other day made a point to say that growth is generally about 4%. Now interest rate on debt's about 2%, so it's not a bad time if you're going to have some debt. The other one on table 2 was again just for your interest. This is where council actually carries the risk. These are loans that come directly from council without any third party providing a oversight of them, and that's 146,000. Now, whether I'm not sure if that's a normal amount that this council has at any one point in time, but it's what we've got at this point in time. And each of those particular clubs, and you can see they're all sports clubs, are generally paying down those debts as per the agreement. So now, whether they're in jeopardy because of the COVID environment, it's probably too early to tell. Back to Councillor Roundtree saying probably 2020-21 will be where the most impact is felt. And even how people support and utilise their local clubs will be in doubt, I suppose, depending on people's incomes. So, but we'll keep an eye on those. And if each of those clubs or any of them come to council asking for some sort of a discretion or a stretching out of their payments, then I think we're open to that discussion.
So, councillors, those community groups at 118,000 has got no LGFA facility behind them if we have lent them the money at whatever term. And I've noticed that probably a majority of that money is probably sitting in football netball clubs, which may not even play this year yet. So that's why the CEO said we may just wish to think about whether we're happy to give them some leeway on that. It's just internally in our own book, that one. Councillor Roundtree.
I think you almost touched on it there, Mayor. A number of those clubs are going to struggle. They've not had their sponsorship money come in for this year. They're not sure if they're going to play for this year. They don't have a lot of probably overheads whilst they are not functioning, but they may be looking to maybe extend those payments out for a bit longer or miss a few or something. I don't know what the arrangements are, whether they pay monthly or whatever. But there is certainly some struggling times out there amongst our clubs, definitely.
Sure, we'll be ready. Now, given the amounts of money to us are not enormous, but to them we are, we'll probably have a policy or a position for us pretty soon. Any further discussion around our position there? And if we look at it, the one debt falls away in a month, two's time. So we've really got 3 principal debts totaling.
Mr. Mayor.
Sub $3 million. Councillor Arthur.
Mr. Mayor, that's all well and good, your loans, but what about your liabilities at the present moment, which we are not making any allowance for? Can I run through a few of them for you? Your employee entitlements is $1.123 million. Your future reinstatement restoration, whatever that is $36,000. Your aged home deposit at Tintinara is $79,000. Another is $66,000. Now that's a liability, current and deferred, of $1.346 million. Then we've got the other reserves, which is money which council holds, but it's not really theirs. It's water scheme reserve, which obviously is must be Peak and Wellington East. I would think $94,000. The Meals on Wheels replacement, $8,000. The Tintinara Airfield, $33,000. The Open Space Trust Fund, well, we know what that's all about, $45,000. The Committed Funds Reserve, I don't know what that is, but this is out of the annual report, $71,000. Now we've got the Community Waste Management Scheme, $635,000 in credit. The Local Action Plan, which has got $441,000 in credit with the council, which is another $1.327 million. So really our loans and liabilities is $5.5 million, not 3.
So I'll attempt to answer what I think the question is, Councillor Arthur. With the local action plan with the LAP money, generally that's all committed. That's grant money in, grant money out normally. So that wouldn't be considered to be, it's a neutral effect on either the budget, the balance sheet or the income and revenue statement. The CWMS, my understanding is that that is a cost recovery scheme. So any money sitting in there would be insurance against future expenditure. It would be a mitigation of the risks, and they're the big ones. What other ones did you talk about?
I'd like to know how we're still managing the Meals on Wheels car. I don't know if we do or we don't, but that's an interesting one. We used to donkeys years ago. Councillor Bland, you got an answer, or you just?
No, it's stunned me a little bit, that one, to be seeing that one sitting there. I wouldn't have thought we were doing a Meals on Wheels car.
I thought we got out of it 10 or 15 years ago. But
Well, it's still an item in our annual return. And Bridget, I know you can say that the LAC scheme is money going in, going out, but it's money we've had. And at one stage, we had $3 million sitting there. And, you know, we were showing a $500,000 deficit when it was actually a $3.5 million deficit, but we had $3 million sitting there to spend over 5 years.
So whether we can do better in terms of our investment of those types of funds, I think we can do better. We don't actively try to invest those monies that we know are a certainty into our bucket, whether they are into the bucket and then out again. But I think into the future we can be much more, now mind you, the interest rate's low, but still a couple of $100 in our pocket is better than no couple of $100. So I think we can be more active in investing those on the short term, which we haven't done to date.
Yeah, I agree with you, but it's still liabilities that we have got.
Basically, is that we've used the cash, especially those reserves, we've used the cash to fund the operations. So when we come to spend those, we're going to have to take those out of the loans. That's what, and if every employee has been, just for the sake of the arguments, quits tomorrow, we have to pay all those annual leaves, it's going to come out of loans. That's where you're coming from, isn't it, Councillor Arthur? Because it's not.
Sorry, I didn't get that last bit.
Basically, if everyone left tomorrow, we'd have to find 1.1 million. That's what you're really saying?
Yeah, for the annual leave.
And therefore, we may have to borrow for it.
Yeah, well, that's right. And the biggest problem that worries me is it went up 180,000 in 1 year. And that should be normally, you'd think, long service leave and holiday pay, which is a hell of a lot on the budget. You know, like on your, the percentage doesn't work out on your wages.
What's the figure from, Councillor Arthur?
Sorry?
The annual report of last year.
Financial statements.
Okay.
I find it very hard to hear you, Bridget.
So you're reading from the annual report from last year, which is the 18-19 year, is that correct?
And the current figures, yes. Yeah.
So basically, yes, if we shut the business down tomorrow, council's going to be left with debt of $1 billion.
So you remember a couple of months ago when I first started, we had a workshop around debt and our revenue, and I said we basically have no money. Councillor Arthur was pointing out that fact in fine detail.
And I'm going to ask for someone to move the recommendations. I don't think I've got someone.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation.
Right, Councillor Arthur. Councillor Bland moves, and Councillor Arthur, I'll take you as a seconder. Is there any further discussion around that? There is none. You are closing debate, Councillor Bland.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Putting the motion. All those in favour? Brendan's giving me a very serious look. Are you in favour, Councillor? Thank you. Yeah. Anyone against the motion? No, thank you. It's carried unanimously, I believe. That brings us to other business. We don't have other business in local government. Who put that in? No. No. Is there any other things of consequence? We've got next Tuesday.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
You've got a question? Thank you. Yes, I'll let you have one, Councillor Bland.
I would just like to ask our CEO to give us a little update on how things are running within council while we've got a couple of minutes to just let us know how it's all going from a staffing, as we're not in contact as much physically as we were. So, you know, the general lie of the land.
That's other business.
Things are running surprisingly well. The outdoor staff have got in place a whole lot of procedures around increased hygiene, social distancing, the use of a single vehicle, and that seems to be working quite nicely. So they're getting on with business. It may be a little bit more time consuming, especially the single use of vehicles, but they are getting there, and they're certainly gainfully employed during this period. My biggest worry was that we would have a complete shutdown and there's nothing that the outdoor staff could do if they couldn't go to work and do their jobs outside, but that hasn't eventuated and it's looking less and less likely. So they are doing what they need to do and getting on with it with all the restrictions that are in place at this particular point in time. The indoor staff, again, touch wood, we've had no exposure or people who have had to self-quarantine apart from one person, and it didn't eventuate to be a genuine, the results were negative, so that was good. And again, it's a combination of people working from home and from working within the office. And most people do a combination of both because our IT systems aren't sophisticated enough, and I don't think we're alone there to do everything from home, but we certainly can do more in a remote setting than we thought we could do, and it's working quite nicely. The silver lining is that it's forced us to focus very closely on the things that we do that are extraneous to, but we've always done it that way, so we've been able to look at some things with an efficiency eye because we didn't want to transport one particular process from inside the organisation to a remote one. So it's working quite nicely. And I think the staff who are doing a combination of both are finding that it's quite easy to maintain. Deb or David, want to add anything?
If I can just add, it's actually gone surprisingly well with staff working from home. We've had our poor IT person who's been run off his feet, but nevertheless, it all seems to have gone quite smoothly. And it, as Bridget said, it is helping us relook at how we do things. So I think, and Bridget alluded to this earlier today, there will be a silver lining for us in relation to process.
David?
Yeah, I guess all I'd say, I mean, I suppose I had some concerns in regards to some of the questions that were coming from the outside staff, but we have a regular fortnightly meeting with everyone. That has proven to be challenging, but it worked well last week. We separated everyone out around the depots, but yeah, I don't know if you've got any comments, Bridget, but it went really well. Great comments, and they're all understanding given the situation we're in. So yeah, from my perspective, it's working well.
In fact, the outdoor staff, we were asking could the three groups go into their various depots, and a couple of them said no, we won't be able to do the social distancing, we'll dial in to the Zoom on our phones. So they're really conscious of it and mindful of it. The only other thing that you may not be aware of is that SAPOL have enlisted the help of local government in terms of an educative approach in terms of compliance. So our EHOs have a particular role in that process, but all local government staff, if they see something where, say, a group is gathering and it's not within the bounds of the social distancing rules, that staff are able to go up and from an educative process just remind residents that there are rules in place. Could they either separate or do what they need to do? No more, no less, but it's that, again, local government's the eyes and ears of most communities. They're on the ground most of the time. And we didn't do anything extra around that over Easter, but staff, if they had an opportunity, would remind residents if that was the case. I've had no reports one way or the other, so I think that we probably didn't have to use that approach very much, and if we did, it went probably quite well, but there's been absolutely no feedback about it.
Okay, any other comments about the process room? Councillor Arthur, are you waving or?
No, I didn't
like
to make a comment about another thing, if it is. It's just regarding the email you've already received about the valuations, how we don't get valuations until May. The thing that was sent through, if you look at the total one, the original total was 83,202 right down the bottom, is you got your SV, CV, SV, CV. That's site value and the now and improved. And our rate valuation from June last year was 1.776 325,550 million, and it's now 1.968. The capital value on the end is now the increased capital value from last year. So we do get that capital value increase, not split up, but the total value every time we get a notice. I just thought because you're saying we only get it once a year, which is not correct.
15-18% is what you're suggesting. 10% of this time, I'm told.
It's gone up $190 million, I think it is roughly.
So we'll get the official one in early May. That was my reading of the report.
That's a breakdown, yes, so we can do
Proper breakdown, so we can have a look at
Yeah,
it.
you get split up into one.
Last year, or this year we're now going. Any other questions before I close the meeting? Thank you. We're here next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. I've identified one problem. I'm trying to work out how we would run a secret ballot for some reason. And the second thing, Councillor Arthur, is if I declare an interest, how you chair the meeting from where you are. But I'm watching today, and I think you'll be able to.
Well, it should be all right because you'd use nominate one of say Deb or Bridget to be your eyes, I suppose, to count the votes and whatever. Yeah. If I'm running the meeting, for
clear and just leave the room.
Yeah,
it'll work all right. We think it's actually having a secret ballot for something where we've done it historically by paper vote in the chamber. That's the one I can't keep my mind around, but I'm looking at Sean. He'll dream up something like that. Okay, thank you again. It's actually pretty informative. I'm going to declare the meeting closed. Thank you.